Hey guys, welcome back to Nikke. In today's video, we're going to be going through my top 5 underrated heroes. Now, before we get into it, underrated, it's up to everyone's perception of what underrated is. I'm basing most of this off of the early tier list from Pride when nothing against those boys. They did fantastic work putting all that info out there. But you know, that's sort of what a lot of people have gauged themselves on. Also, just what I've seen around the community about people, you know, maybe shitting on a few units or, you know, not really talking about some. And then the testing is coming from myself and my experience in the game because, yes, endgame is one thing, but we're in a progression phase. So I've played through a lot of accounts on the test server through progression. I'm playing 2 accounts currently. Not the original one that I started. I'll talk about the one I'm playing in a sec. And also from friends that I really trust and have really good game knowledge on stuff like this, and they've shown me strategies and screenshots and stuff like that. So that's where a bunch of this is coming from. But hopefully, you know, if you've got one of these units and you think they're trash, maybe you can try them out and they might help you out, because obviously we don't all have every character in the game, so you got to make use with what you have. So the first one I'm going to go through is going to be one that I actually have another account. When I was rerolling, I pulled 2 copies of this character in the reroll, and that is Isabel. So I'm slowly leveling this account on the side, and I will have more on that for you guys in the future. First of all, design, absolutely sick. But then we get into the skills. So she is an attacker, she's a burst 3, she's a pilgrim. So with her, the funny thing is she's one of these units, she is a shotgun user, which I know a lot of people put shotgun users just down straight away, but honestly, something like Drake is incredibly solid. I don't think shotguns are that bad, and if they are just completely broken bad, I feel like they will buff them. But honestly, my testing so far, she does pretty well compared to like a guillotine that I'm leveling her with. So the thing that puts people off is she's one of these ones that has the reduction of full burst time. What? Why are they doing another maintenance? Rip. Hopefully that gets off the screen while we're recording this. But basically, let's take a look. So every time she uses her burst skill, she'll gain an extra buff based on this passive. So the first time she uses her burst skill, she'll get a crit buff, then she'll get a crit damage buff, then she'll get an attack buff. That's the basics. Then this one is just an active ability that happens, unfortunately for my game, it must be the Australian version. It doesn't show me cooldown on abilities, but you know, other people have the cooldowns. It's really unfair. But this one is just an AoE attack. Now the thing with this one is that the thing I love about this is when she uses her burst skill, it affects all enemies. And if she has that, the first effect of this, the mark target 1, she will increase the enemy's damage taken by 39% for 5 seconds. Now that's an AoE, so that's every enemy's damage that they take will be just flat increased by 39%. That is really, really nice. And and the thing about that is, from my testing, and I could be wrong, anyone else who's tested this, let me know, but I'm pretty sure she activates this effect the first time she uses a burst skill. So your first round of burst skills, she will actually pop this ability and increase the damage taken by enemies. And then the other thing with these abilities, you know, if you compare these things with units that reduce the cooldown of burst skills as well, then the reduction time of the burst isn't such a bad thing because you're reducing the burst time, but a lot of the buffs that come in the burst last only say 5 seconds. So it's like you want that massive burst window of 5 seconds. Then if you can end it and start charging up towards your next burst phase and then use things like leader or volume to reduce cooldowns, then you can get into it quicker, and maybe you'll be doing your full burst and then getting back to another full burst within maybe like between like 12 and 15 seconds. So there's a lot of synergies to play off, but I just think she's rated like absolute trash. But I think even just on her own, even with the fact that she reduces burst time, the fact that she does AoE, damage taken up, is quite fantastic. And if you do get it to fully stacked and the optimal way, which we can try and eventually get it to, whereas she's the only one using her burst 3 ability, or she uses it every second, but it's a lower cooldown, if you know what I mean. So she's using it basically once every, you know, 25 seconds or so. She can start stacking some massive buffs, but also she can start doing some massive damage because these are additive, as I understand, meaning she'll get up to about an 800% multiplier plus applying that damage taken increase, which is really nice. So that is my first one. That is Isabel. She's a really cool looking pilgrim, and I think she's got a lot of viability, and I'm leveling an account with her now to give you guys more test results on it. Next up on the list is going to be Miranda. Now, I've seen a few people in Discord and stuff just absolutely shit on Miranda, but I actually think she is very good, especially in the early game when you're progressing and maybe you don't have like a fully built team, so you're relying more on one of your solid damage dealers that you got, putting the best gear on them, putting the cube on them to like maximize their stats and get most of the damage out of one unit. And I think she's fantastic for that. So she is a burst 1 unit. Now, burst 1 units are always going to struggle because you're competing with volume and leader who reduce burst cooldowns and have really great buffs. But honestly, her buffs are quite substantial as well when we just look at her at a base. So activates after landing 30 normal attacks, affects all allies. We get hit up, which, you know, the hit rate, I'm still trying to figure out exactly how all the interactions work with hit rate, but I believe it has to do with like missing at different ranges or something like that, but bear with me. Anyway, next up we have a passive. Activates at the beginning of full burst, affects all allies, and that's a 32% crit damage increase for 10 seconds, which is quite nice considering it's a 10-second one, and often full burst, that's when you're going to get all your effects. So really, really nice effect to have. So just without even her burst ability, really solid team buffs. But then we get into this one, which is her burst ability on the 20-second cooldown affects one ally with the highest attack, except herself. They gain 40% attack and they gain 56% crit damage for 10 seconds. And like I said, in the early game, this is huge if you don't have a bunch of really good attackers, you don't have a fully built team, and you have Miranda and you have one core unit. A lot of people are re-rolling to get their one favorite damage dealer. If you don't have a full team, she's going to be absolutely amazing. Now, I have to see how she fares endgame, but she's one of those ones, if you get one copy of her, I've always had her on my wish list in all my accounts, because one copy of her just really allows you to enable a hero to deal just massive amounts of damage by itself. Plus, she has the team-wide crit damage buff as well of 32%, which is also really decent. So that is Miranda. Next up, we have Arya. Now, this is one courtesy of my mate Nikke on Discord. You probably see him in the general Discord. But he's done a lot of testing, shown me a lot of results. And basically, the thing that happens with Arya, I think a lot of people look over her because she's a burst 2 unit. And normally burst 2 units, if they don't have a 20-second cooldown, everyone looks past them because they're just there to buff. And if they can't do it, then they're no good. But the thing with Arya is she's more of a DPS option. She can actually deal massive amounts of damage. So instead of running 3 burst 3 units, you can run Arya as one of those ones, and she has some tech support with the shield that you can choose to opt into her ultimate, her burst skill if you want to. Now, ideally, she would have had a damage dealing burst skill to make her more valuable, because then you could have got like 2 really good damage skills on your first round of bursts. But you know, it is what it is. But really, I think a lot of people just look over her, like I said, because she's not a general support burst 2 with a 20-second cooldown. Now, her effects aren't like the craziest, but effects at beginning of full burst, we're going to get a 26% crit damage buff for 10 seconds. Really solid. The whole team, affects all allies, and then activates when the last bullet hits the target, affects all allies. Crit rate up by 7%. Once again, it's a low crit rate, it's not crazy, but every bit of crit rate does help. So these 2 effects in themselves are really nice, and that paired with the fact that she is an attacker means that she can deal a lot of damage whilst bringing a little bit of support and have a tech option to go ahead and give your team a shield if you decide you need that. So definitely not saying she's top tier, but she's one of those units I feel like a lot of people may have just pulled and gone, damn, put that aside, never look at it. But if you're struggling for DPS units, she can deal a massive amount of damage. Don't get put off because she is a burst 2 unit. Next up, we have Eula, I don't know how to say it, but honestly, I am thoroughly impressed with this chick. I think the guys over in JP rate her very highly. She's just quite impressive. If we look at her skills, so she's another burst 3 unit, an attacker. You can use her as one of your like main 2 attackers that you use a burst skill on, or you can use her as a supportive burst 3 unit, where she never actually uses her burst skill, but maybe in tech situations, you can bring her out to get the damage if you want, if you need full AoE damage, because you're lacking it. But when we look at her first 2 abilities, activates when attacked 30 times, affects self, critical rate up by 24%. Not too bad, giving herself a crit rate buff, and it is a 20-second duration, which isn't bad at all. Now, the next one is the big one. Affects all allies with the lowest HP, or affects 5 allies, which is your whole team. Attack up 90.75%. Now, unfortunately, this would be amazing if it activated during a burst, but it's actually got a long cooldown cooldown. I believe it's a 30-second cooldown, but then they also share damage taken for 10 seconds, which is going to contribute to her taking damage, which is going to get, stack her up quicker. I'm pretty sure from my testing that the shared damage counts as an attack in this sense. But yeah, they don't give us much information on stuff, so we've really just got to test and test and test to find this stuff out. But nonetheless, a 90.75% attack buff is really huge, and like I said, really good support. So, and the fact that she gives herself crit rate means she can really take effect of that attack buff, hopefully land some crits, and then snowball from there. But like I said, ideally you have two really strong main DPS for your two main burst 3s, and then she can slot in there as your supportive burst 3 with the tech option for an extra AoE if you need it. So I really do rate her. I find her absolutely amazing. And when that attack buff goes off, you just like 5 seconds of sheer annihilation. And the final one is going to be Haran. Now, I've mentioned her in my last video. I don't think she's underrated where people think she's crap, but I just wanted to reiterate this point. This one's for the rerollers because I know there's people out there still rerolling. She is a fantastic unit. Everyone's rerolling for Scarlet and Scarlet only have eyes for Scarlet. I am in chapter 7. Yeah, I'm in chapter 7 now. And we're just into we're still on day 2 of my account, almost into day 3, chapter 7, and I barely see Scarlet out damage my Haran in campaign stages. Now, Scarlet is better on bosses because the thing about Haran is she's like a campaign specialist with enemies that she can kill, because she's going to get a stacking buff when she kills an enemy, which is this one here actually, which is 3% stacking up to 15 times, which is a really nice attack buff. So if she can kill enemies, she's gonna just absolutely demolish the damage. So once again, not saying people think she's bad. I know people know she's good, but this one's for the rerollers out there. If you pull a Haran, consider it, because you never know how long you'll be going for a Scarlet, and she's just an absolute savage. Like I said, especially in campaign and tower stages with some ads that you can just wipe out. Her ult is also a really nice multiplier at 999%, meaning she's going to get those kills and instantly stack this beast up. On top of that, her spread damage is insane because she has a 25% chance of putting a virus on someone, but if they have the virus and they die, it spreads to the 2 nearest enemies. So you can really just snowball that across a field of enemies and deal some really nice damage. But that is going to be it. That's my top 5 underrated ones. Let me know what you guys think. Let me know who you guys are really enjoying in the game, like who your favorite character is that maybe isn't a Scarlet. So that is going to be it for this one, guys. Thanks for watching. Hope you have an awesome day, and I look forward to seeing the next one. Cheers.